Oscar Isaac cast as Solid Snake in the Metal Gear Solid movie. Of course, I'm going to talk about this. I have a lot to say, Metal Gear Solid being my favorite game franchise of all time. So bear with me as I have a lot to say, not a lot to show, but I can't help but love talking about video games and video game movie adaptations. I know a lot of you guys give me shit for it, but I can't help but try to be excited because I believe that this stuff is getting better and better little by little, more on the television front. Like I've been taking Castlevania and The Witcher with Henry Cavill as an absolute win, but little by little, I think one day there is potential for video game movies to be great and really dominate because there's a lot of great stories there, and there's a reason why we love this stuff as people who play games. Is Metal Gear good for this? I'll get to that in a second, but let's talk about Oscar Isaac. So Deadline is reporting, as of yesterday, Oscar Isaac to star as Solid Snake in Sony's Metal Gear Solid movie. Deadline usually gets these types of scoops if you're looking for a legit confirmation. Most of the time it's from a Deadline or a Variety or a Vanity Fair or something like that. Yesterday, they changed it now, but yesterday the header image, they had the wrong snake, but they finally changed the image, so thank you. The article doesn't really say much other than that their sources tell Deadline that Oscar Isaac is attached to play Solid Snake in the film, which is currently in development at Sony Pictures with Jordan Vogt-Roberts on board to direct. But I think Oscar Isaac is the perfect choice. There's a lot of hot takes out there, but I am a big Oscar Isaac fan. I love the dude. I love a lot of things that he's in. I think some people maybe still haven't seen him in enough things other than just being hot guy Poe Dameron. Keep it. It suits you. But there's so much you got to watch with him. A Most Violent Year, pretty good. Inside Llewyn Davis is fantastic. Ex Machina, if you have not seen that, man, what are you doing? So he's a versatile actor. He's cool, he's badass. I wonder if he's gonna do a voice. That's the thing a lot of people I've seen say, like, David Hayter or nothing. David Hayter or I don't want to watch this movie. Have you guys seen David Hayter lately? No offense to him. He was fantastic in Guyver, but David Hayter is a voice actor first. It just doesn't really totally make sense for me, but I get it. The voice, it's hard to not have the voice. The voice is half the character, like something like Sam Fisher or insert literally any other iconic video game protagonist. And I think the Uncharted movie, there's a bit of a struggle there with that too. But I personally think that Oscar Isaac has the cool factor, he has the charisma, he has just enough grit and the looks to really kind of do an interpretation of Snake. Is it going to be Snake ripped from the video game? No. But if it's a representation of Snake that is convincing to me, it's the same thing like with comic book movies, okay? I am a diehard Captain America fan. Chris Evans, I thought was a little too young to play the role, but he fell into it because how he portrayed it and what these movies were written around him really were the foundations, the cornerstones of a Captain America character and concept. So it's still a win for me. Does that make sense? I'm like screaming, sorry. The big question though, like what are they doing with this movie first of all? Because I've followed it like to a T, the development, everything that the penned director Jordan Vogt-Roberts has been saying about it, all the concept art and the ideas he's been putting out, all of the things before he was even involved. I've been there. I don't know what they're going to do with this movie. He has alluded to some things and how they're going to do it and how they're going to tackle a lot of things, but I'm not going to believe any of that until I see it, especially is Liquid going to be involved, and is Oscar Isaac going to also play Liquid? Because Liquid Snake is, of course, they are both clones, so that would be really cool. That would be insane. It would be weird. It might be too weird for mainstream audiences, but I would love nothing more. And I think it would actually be attractive for people who didn't know what Metal Gear Solid was to go to a movie where Oscar Isaac plays the badass soldier man, and then Oscar Isaac also plays the corny, over-the-top villain with a British accent and a blonde wig. That's probably not going to happen. There's no way that's going to happen. I'll eat my shoe, and I will happily eat my shoe because I would love to see that. I also want to shout out to Boss Logic, the amazing Instagram social media artist who basically willed this into existence, and I gotta say the mock-ups that he has done and other fans have done are just even all the more convincing here. Now, I think although he might not be a carbon copy of Snake by any means, I think he can have the presence also to sell. One time I was in the city and I saw him. Hey babe, yeah. Where did we see him? Was that the Village? Where was that? Yeah, so we were just walking down the street, and then there was a side cafe table, and he was just sitting there talking to someone. And I've seen celebrities before, here and there, in the city, it happens, but I like almost shit my pants immediately. I just saw him and then just boom. I'm curious to see how this goes because he was also Apocalypse, but he tried. He wanted that role. You could tell he wanted to be there, and he's spoken about Solid Snake. He's gone on record saying he's wanted to play him. So yeah, dude. But I am curious about this as like a move because Oscar Isaac is pretty popular. He's not like stratosphere, get butts in seats like Tom Cruise, but he does have that mainstream appeal, sort of. So I do wonder if this is like a big deal, if this is only the beginning of more people they bring in that's like a big play. Like, is Metal Gear Solid finally gonna become like a thing in pop culture? I know it's like a massively selling popular video game, but it's also still managed to be this weird underdog that like when I still talk to people about it, they're like, what the fuck is that? What are you even talking about? Why do you like that? Like, I'm wondering like if this is gonna blow up and become popular. Could you imagine? And then like everybody laughed at me, like all my collectible Metal Gear Solid stuff I have in the closet in the attic, like all my memorabilia, people laughed at me when I bought like 6 packs of Metal Gear Solid 4 playing cards. People were like, Jake, what are you doing? And I said, I love it all. And now if it blows up, like who's laughing now? Probably not gonna happen. I'm gonna end up using those as coasters, but I am looking forward to this. I'm gonna believe it when I see it, though. This movie's been in flux, in development hell for a long time, but so was Uncharted, and now Uncharted is being made. So things can happen, but this is still something where like there's a part of me in my brain, I'm like, is this ever really gonna happen? And I am 50-50 on it because of the people involved. Now, stop me for a second if I'm boring you. I used to be more of like a movie YouTuber. Shout out to pretty much it. So there's a lot of people involved in this that I think are good and should be involved in it and are qualified. And then there's other people involved in this where I'm like, I don't know, man. So Jordan Vogt Roberts, the director, he made Kong Skull Island. He's very enthusiastic about Metal Gear Solid. He's on record. He's been coming up with the ideas. He's been very public about it. He's like buddies with Hideo Kojima. Like there's like a blessing there between them. So that I think is good. Yes, the guy directed Kong Skull Island. I thought that was a good time. Is it? No, it's not David Fincher. Okay, like we're not gonna get Steven Spielberg to direct a Metal Gear Solid movie. Sorry, it's not happening. Like, but in terms of like a realistic sense, is this the best we can get? Yeah, probably. But then we have other people like, so the actual person who wrote the script, which I know Vogt Roberts was definitely involved in, but Derek Connolly wrote the script, and he's a little bit all over the place. Detective Pikachu, cool. The Jurassic World movies, the Rise of Skywalker. Oh, and he wrote Safety Not Guaranteed. Oh, that was good. And then there's Avi Arad, who is heavily involved. Avi Arad, you've probably heard the name. He is big-time Hollywood producer. And for me, he's been involved in some great stuff. He literally helped bring like my favorite Spider-Man stuff to life. But then he's also had a lot of stinkers and a lot of misguided directions here and there. Most of his credits, I admit, are really, really good. But sometimes when he goes on record about some things, that's where I kind of get nervous. Like when he talks in interviews about projects where I'm like, does he really get it? But his resume, mostly good. So I don't know. So like I said, things are kind of like it could be good, could be bad, could never even happen still at this point. Just because a director is attached doesn't mean squat, really, especially with the fact that Oscar Isaac is definitely working on 1,000 things right now. Ultimately, I think it has a shot. I'm going to keep following it very closely as I have been. But then there's also the bigger existential question, like, do we need a Metal Gear Solid movie? Or more importantly, can a Metal Gear Solid movie be made? Now, that's probably me being like an insufferable, pretentious fan. You guys don't understand Kojima's genius, man. But there's something about, so people say like, oh, Metal Gear Solid's practically a movie already because it's all cutscenes. No, because I think that part of the storytelling experience of those games work because it's a game. You have the time to have an hour-long codec conversation that gives you more context about the military-industrial complex and all this stuff that then backs up what is going on in the plot. You have a lot of time to spend with those characters as they talk about their philosophies, you know, their ideas behind life, stuff like that. And then it just pulls all that weird, like, anime, sci-fi, crazy, complicated lore that I think you can only really get away with in a video game or a comic book. Now, while there are some things that I think can be distilled down into a more digestible, interesting thing, like how comic book movies have become mainstream, stuff like that, I don't know about Metal Gear Solid. I think that is a much harder thing to do. Like, I mean, look at other adaptations of anime made into, you know, regular English language movies. There's something that can be lost there. So I really, really wonder how much this movie can handle, because there's so much. It's a tall order, and honestly, I don't envy anyone being involved, because that sounds like just insanity, because they have to make something that works and makes sense, and also take advantage of why people like Metal Gear and why they sold so much in the first place. And that's complicated. But I've definitely talked about this for way too long. I'm sorry for keeping you, but thank you for coming around. You know, I just love talking about things I love here, and I love Metal Gear so much. So there's probably going to be a lot more of this, but I want to know what you guys think, because opinions are all over the place about Oscar Isaac. But let's make this a conversation not just about him, but also just the idea of the movie itself. Can it succeed? I think it's a rough go, man. I don't know. I have my doubts, but can't help but just hope for the best, because you know what? If it comes out and it's a complete disaster, then I still just have my weird little Metal Gear to myself. No big deal. The movie doesn't ruin the games. But I would really love to hear what you guys are thinking, so let me know in the comments. If you had fun just kind of rambling and watching me shoot the shit here, clicking the like button does help me. Subscribing too, hitting the notification bell, I do recommend it. Number one, as a YouTuber, but number two, I only put a video out like once a week or so I'm not going to spam you. But thank you guys for watching. I'm Jake. Subscribe because video games.